Hi, good afternoon, everyone. If you are joining us for today's webinar, it is Write Like a Madman. So I have the lovely opportunity to introduce my colleague, Dane Seville. Dane is our Director of Brand Experience, formerly from our Director of SEO. And he has over 15 years of experience in the digital marketing space in various verticals. Dane has built a career around content strategy and local SEO. You'll find he's quite gifted at teaching, and that's why it's made him a very popular speaker on the circuit. Rather many verticals from healthcare, automotive, recently an international speaker at, I believe it's Digital Marketing Europe. So without further ado, I'm going to put Dane on this stage and we will get into content writing.
Thanks, Diane. I appreciate that. Everyone, thanks for joining us here today. As Diane had said already, I have 15 plus years in marketing. Most of it was in charge of content. Then I was director of SEO here at SearchLab and now director of brand experience. And as you'll see through this presentation, that I am not a graphic designer. So by the time I was able to put this together, I could not get anyone to have the time to clean it all up. So just bear with me. So number one, you already know, this webinar here today is not about telling you need a good headline, right? I don't want to talk about the obvious. You need a good headline. You need a good call to action. I don't want to talk about things that you can just, Google an AI overview tells you, oh yeah, of course you need a good headline. Of course you need a good CTA. I want to dive into some of the principles that get you that headline and compel people to take that action that you want them to take. Because, we got to avoid the idea that we're going to be living in a sea of sameness. And this is going to be especially true as more and more people leverage AI for their content writing, which I personally would advise against. But if you still are going to be one of those people that will insist on using AI systems to write your content, then even today we'll help you with prompting at least. So at least we'll try to get you away from the sea of sameness. But again, LLMs, and we call it AI, right? It's really, large language models are not true AI. Like ChatGPT is not really AI. It's an LLM. And, the output is only as good as the input. And now you can put in multiple rounds of inputs, but there's still only so much it can vary, right? But we'll talk about some of these primary principles of writing. So number one, you want to determine whether or not the piece of content is going to educate or it's going to sell. Selling, of course, is going to be shorter, punchier, catchier sort of taglines and punchier copy. Whereas educational content is going to be more of the more verbose, diving into the details, providing that information. So you're going to kind of determine, number one, what are you trying to do? And we'll talk more about that at length. But one of the other issues I see in marketing writing, and this is largely because, as I wrote in the description for this webinar, is that a lot of small businesses can't afford those big agencies, and you're working with a freelancer or maybe a third-party provider, and the writing can often be quite lacking, and that's because they're not really necessarily trained copywriters. So number one of the core principles is focus on benefits, not features. So often you'll see content in which they'll just have a list of the features of the product or the service. So for example, you'll go on a legal, like a law firm website, and you'll see they have 20 years of experience. That's a feature. The benefit is that you're going to get, as a client, the breadth of knowledge to get the outcome that you want, right? They have the breadth of legal know-how to get the outcomes that their clients desire. That's the benefit. Now, the 20 years is the feature. Or a plumber, the guaranteed time of arrival, right? We've all dealt with contractors and other folks, which you get that time frame. But let's say you're a plumber and you guarantee a time of arrival. Well, that's a feature. A benefit is, guess what? the people who call you, they have no more guesswork. They still have control of their daily schedule. They know when they need to be home. Giving back control to the consumer, that's a feature, or that's a benefit, not a feature. Or for vehicles like car dealerships, you have a 5-star safety rating of your SUV. That's a feature. The benefit is you're going to be giving people the comfort of mind that they and their most precious cargo are going to arrive at the destination safely. Now you'll use the features to supplement the benefits, but the features should not be the core driving context of the content itself. And best of all, when you focus on the benefits and not the features, you're writing towards the audience, right? And that actually, out of any aspect of why you should focus on benefits and not features, is that you're fulfilling one of the most core tenets of copywriting psychology, and that is building rapport with your audience. Again, we need to get more and more away from, especially when you talk to SEO companies that offer content, we need to get more away from writing to the algorithm and writing for people. Now, again, the features are going to feed the information that, LLMs and traditional search will need to understand the context of the page. But again, we want to focus on the consumer because, again, at the end of the day, the core is that you want to drive more leads for sales. And the core is that you want to write for people and get those engagements, because when search engines see that you're getting those engagements, the people are getting what they need from when they landed on your site, of course, those engagements benefit you in more visibility. So make sure when you begin crafting a draft, you're focused on benefits and not the features, and get creative with it. You can go get a little outside the box. Really sit down and think about the many different benefits that someone can derive from that product or service. Think about even, and I'll talk about this later too, you can even think about, and you can even leverage things like Quora and Reddit to see what people are specifically talking about. Maybe not about the brand, but around that type of product or service, whether it's vehicles or kayaks, outdoor activities, whatever it might be. You can glean sort of what matters to people. So again, focus on those benefits and not features. Another thing is that a lot of copywriters don't understand priming. Priming means that, think about priming an engine, right? You prime a lawnmower engine before you pull the cord to get it started. Priming is you are setting people up for a feeling based on the language that you're using. And oftentimes, copywriters or writers for small businesses don't understand that concept. So you'll see on a car dealership website, it'll say hassle-free. Or on a dentistry website, it'll be pain-free. And I talked about this in the last webinar. You're priming people negatively, right? The message is, hey, this is a hassle-free experience, but you're priming them to think about the hassle. You're priming them to think about the pain. So think about there's even other times where it's like, if you don't buy this product, this bad thing's going to happen. Like if you don't buy our hair product, you're going to be bald. You need to think about how to reframe these things so that you contextualize them in a positive manner, right? You want a full, lush head of hair. Our product is the best solution for long-term hair treatment, right? Positively prime people. You don't have a hassle-free experience at your car dealership. You have a streamlined experience at the car dealership. So think about the language that you're using in your class. And that's not relegated to your website. That's for if you're an email marketer, if you're writing up social media campaign content. This applies to anyone in any discipline when you're crafting out that content. So I know often, because I'm an SEO and we work with websites, I'll often refer to SEO in these examples, but still that applies to various disciplines across marketing channels. If it can go, it should. I often tell folks that you should treat writing your copy like poetry. Poets cut out every possible word they can, as long as it doesn't take away from the core of the message. So a lot of times I'll see content and there'll be this big exposition, right? Like it's like the writing a college essay. It'll be, it's a page about Ford inventory. And it's like, well, in 1922, Ford is, and it tells like a story of Ford before it even gets to the idea of writing about the inventory. So, or carpal tunnel surgery. It'll like describe like, carpal tunnel surgery, Dr. Dallas. And it's like, You land on the page of content and it gives you a description of how people get carpal tunnel, defining what carpal tunnel is. Cut all that crap out. If you're working with a third-party agency and you're seeing a lot of this exposition, if the content doesn't get to the core of the concept right away, send it back. Don't pay for those words, right? That's wasted language. You're spending money on things that aren't going to really matter and move the needle. So if it can go, it should go. One of my favorites is George Gribben. He wrote for Macy's, copywriter for Macy's, other big department stores back in, I think, in the 30s. Know your prospect and know your product, and know both at considerable depth. So it's, again, we're writing for people. We want to understand the prospect, but don't forget about the product. So I'm going to, unfortunately, Wistia makes me upload these presentations as a PDF. So originally in the PowerPoint format, I had this list that would come up one at a time, so I could talk over one and each one individually. So as a former educator, you don't put a lot of text on a slide because everyone just reads the text. So please bear with me. Please don't just stare at the text. I can give you some context around some of these things, but this is going to be a good checklist for setting up a content brief, right? So the brief is what's going to be sort of the core of where you derive what and how you're going to write about something. So this is your writing checklist. Number one, you want to consider, what should the content accomplish? Again, it gets even more nuanced than just educate or sell. What is the intent of what you're trying to get someone to do? Or what is the intent that the person has that you're trying to deliver on? So it can kind of vary based on email marketing versus PPC versus social media versus website content. But what ultimately is the objective? Number two, are there other materials relevant to this content? That's really important because you can help control the customer journey. We're going to talk about information gain in a little bit, but you can help control the customer journey. Understanding what other assets you have that can complement that content you're going to build out will help you understand, number one, from the email campaign, where to link people to, or from the page of content you're creating, where to link them to on the website, where to link them to from social media. So what other materials do you have that are relevant? Because, again, you want to provide some options, right? You want to provide some other contextual journeys for consumers. And that is actually, people don't think about that as a copywriter oftentimes, is they just focus on that piece of content. No, you want to make sure you're considering sort of the wealth of information you have around that topic. So again, you can kind of understand what's already out there that you already have published and how you can make this unique in the context of what you're going to craft. Who are we trying to reach? So that's your due diligence in building out your buyer personas. So we're not going to talk about building out buyer personas today because that could require a whole webinar itself, but who is the audience? So who is it that you are writing towards? Again, we don't want to write towards the algorithm. We want to write towards and communicate with that specific consumer for that particular product. And that can be different from different products or services you offer on your site. So think about specifically, precisely, not just generally at the brand level, but at the product and service level of who that is best tailored to reach. What is the core message? So again, the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid, right? Get to the core of the message. Again, don't write all this opening paragraphs of giving a history of a product, like, unless of course the intent is to give the history of the product, but get to the core of the message. What is it that people are trying to do? And you want to, as soon as you can, satisfy that. That should be what's front loaded in the content you're going to write. And then you have all of your supplemental details. So think about what is the absolute singular thing I'm trying to do? What is that singular message we're trying to cross that's going to accomplish what we determine the content is set out to do? What benefit does the core message provide? So again, focusing on what is the benefit for the consumer? As you write, so when you say, think to yourself, what benefit does the core message provide? If you write your content and you ask the question, so what? and you don't have a really good answer, that's not a really good piece of content. So again, ask yourself at the end of it, well, at the beginning too, so what? And if you don't have a great answer to that, you might want to go back and revise. What makes this different and compelling in the marketplace? So again, the sea of sameness, right? If you're writing content and there's already 50 other pieces of content out there that already covers it, what do you have to say that's different? What is the unique positioning or perspective you're offering that's not in the marketplace already? If you have that, great. But otherwise, if you don't have something different, something compelling, something to say that comes from your expertise, your background, then it's just going to add to that sea of sameness. You're not going to differentiate yourself. And as many people are predicting, sort of I don't want to overstep the bounds of this webinar, but sort of I want to say the death of informational content, but the idea that if you're going to contribute to that level, again, you need to be really unique in your perspective so that way you're not just, again, publishing what 150 other people have already published. Why should consumers bother to look at it? So again, that all kind of ties together of what is the core of the message, what benefit, what's different and compelling. So why should consumers bother to look at it? So again, that's a step further from why is this different and compelling? Again, what are additional value propositions that give consumers that sort of unique benefit by potentially giving them your business instead of someone else? Is there a brand style to follow? You should have a brand book built out. Language you should and should not use. If you're a highly compliant industry, compliance information. So what is the brand? What's the tone of voice that you have? You want to have that all dialed in before you begin going through this checklist. So that should be built out. Are there examples of similar outstanding work? Providing examples or having examples, a repository of things you can refer to, especially if you're not doing the writing yourself, but you're working with a freelancer or there's an internal team or a third-party provider. Make sure you pull out examples that are exemplary so you can say, look, like here, like for this type of writing, I want it to look like, I want it to be like this. This is real. This is the exemplary piece of work. And then, what is the most appropriate tone of voice? You have your brand style to follow, but based on the intent and all these other questions, based on what's it accomplishing, who is it trying to reach, how it's different in the marketplace, what's compelling about it, you can kind of tailor that tone of voice. Maybe it's more professorial, maybe it's more conversational, maybe it's more fun and spirited, maybe it's more sort of drawn back and sober. Kind of depends on the topic too, right? You don't want to write frivolously about, divorce law, right? You don't want to make, put in jokes in your content about a terrible aspect of someone's life. But again, you can kind of toy with the tone of voice. What is most proper, most appropriate for that particular piece? So when you go through that checklist, that's going to give you the foundation for crafting what's going to be a much better focused and aligned piece of content. So again, I'm sorry that it's just one big list and I couldn't go through those one at a time. There's going to be different styles, different approaches based on what it is you're writing about. And again, I was going to bring these up one at a time with each individual piece here. But if you're writing about a product, you want to think about and write about this is what's going to help this piece of content convert. You want to think about what is the single overriding benefit. There might be multiple benefits, and you can write certainly about all of them as supporting information. But if you're going to lead off your content, if you want to try to get them to convert, you have to think about what is the single overriding benefit of that. And again, that can vary from region to region. So again, think about towing capacity. Well, a Ford dealer in Miami, the consumer is probably more worried about if they can tow their boat, whereas the Ford owner Ford dealer in Utah might be more focused on hauling a toy trailer or other type of RV. Again, you can use social signals from social media. You can use user-generated content like Quora and Reddit. Again, it doesn't have to be about your brand or about your business, but about the product. Find those subreddits about products and see what people are saying about it. See what people are talking about it. Use people also ask. Use keyword research tools. So again, you can dig in multiple. You can use multiple avenues. Don't just rely on one single source of truth. Try to use as much as you can to kind of collate all that and understand really what is the core of what's going to drive people to want to convert. You don't, with product-specific content, you want to let the elements breathe, right? You want it to be, right, from products, right? There's usually visuals of it, right? Vehicles or hair products, or it might be the bottle design. So you don't want to overwhelm product pages with a ton of different elements, a ton of context and content. You want to be very, again, focused and dialed in on that, mainly that single overriding benefit, but then what are some complementary, supplementary information benefits that, again, will help a broader range of audience as well. But let those elements breathe. If you're service specific, you want to outline the problem it solves. So what problem is that service going to solve? You want to understand the who's going to solve it. Be very clear about that, about your expertise and why you are the best organization to provide that service. How are people going to access it? So how are people going to get that service? Do they need to come into your brick and mortar? Are you going to come to their house? Is it something they have to do online? So how are they going to access this service you're providing? And then why? Again, why should they choose you to provide that service? The who kind of starts to hint at that, but the why is really the unique value propositions, the unique selling propositions of that service. So again, going back to that plumber example, again, you wait for, different contractors in those big windows of time. Again, if you're a plumber and you guarantee something that's unique in the marketplace, that's a great why. If you do business to business, there are 3 pillars around which you want to write: the quality of what you're offering, the customer service and the service that they're going to get, and then the delivery, right? So quality, service, and delivery, with focusing around the idea of professionalism and trust. So again, you want to build out that trust, build out that rapport, and demonstrate your professionalism in those 3 tenets that you're going to deliver on if people are going to ask you to be that service provider. Intent is, of course, the core of it, right? You want to understand the why. So what is the goal? So the what, the terms that they enter into search, or the terms that they use on social, that's the what. The terms are the what, but you want to talk to not just the what, but the why. Get at the crux of the problem that you're solving, or the solution you're providing through that product or service. So understand the why. Analyze, what do they need and how do they want to receive it? So as you're crafting content, maybe what you're going to write is a YouTube script. Maybe what you're going to do is write out directions for an infographic. Maybe it's a piece of content. Maybe it's via email, right? So what is the delivery method of how people want to get that message, and align what you're going to create with that. So again, when you talk about core copywriting tenets, it's not just purely for just textual based things. It can be for anything, right? That clarity of message is going to help you craft a better product or better outcome for consumers to consume it. Does it merit being published or shared? So again, that goes back to that sea of sameness. Unless you are really providing something unique, you really need to assess whether or not there's enough in the marketplace already that you're not really going to add anything that's going to distinguish you. But also, on the SEO side, not everything merits being its own standalone piece of content, right? So I often see, towing capacity blogs. Well, you can answer what is the towing capacity of a vehicle in about 20, 25 words, but it could be incorporated into a piece about performance of a vehicle. So think about both, are you adding something to the marketplace that is not there, and does it merit being its own standalone sort of concept or topic that you're going to publish? And then, of course, get to the point. So I keep saying this in different ways. You don't need the exposition. You don't need to write an essay. Be precise, succinct, simple, and well-structured. And we'll talk about why structure is important as well. There's a couple of levels to why structure is very important for you. I referred to this earlier, information gain. So I also referred to this in the last webinar. That was in the context of information gain in terms of that's a Google patent. And I had predicted that Google was pretty much leveraging that for AI overviews. And I believe through like the DOJ testimony, basically that's true, right? They're using this patent for information gain. And that is essentially, what do people need to know? What is the additional information they want to learn based off of that core need, right? So there's always that core need. Like I said, you focus on that core singular benefit for the product writing, but then there's going to be additional information that will be of benefit, and you can use that to create something even more compelling. So information gain also attends to the information gap theory. So this is another copywriting psychological principle, information gap theory. And that is, if a person is uncertain, they will put in the work between what they know and what they need to know, what they need to learn to make a decision. So using this idea of information gain, you help them bridge the gap. Use this to create provoking questions in your copy and then provide the answer in that body content, or use it to craft a compelling email subject line. And then you can use it to help you understand where they need to go next. Now, information gain can be, oh, well, this information gain is so highly related to this content I'm creating. We're just going to add this to the content. Or information gain is, oh, this is the next step they need to take, and I don't have that next step. I don't have that content worked out yet. Information gain is about not just what people know that they need to learn something, but it's also about what they don't know yet, right? So think about, you need to be ahead of the curve and think about, what does my consumer, or what should my consumer know next? What will they want to do next? What will they not want to learn next? And again, using information gain, using answer the public, using people also ask, looking at Google Trends, look at ChatGPT. ChatGPT can give you plenty of insights as well. Leverage those LLMs that we're trying to work towards getting visibility in. And that information gain will also help you with that type of visibility as well. So again, it's not just about people already know what they want to do next. It's think of yourself as the tour guide, right? You are the tour guide for your consumers, and you want to take them from site to site, right? Think about you're in Pompeii. You're taking them to archaeological site to archaeological site. You're the tour guide for your consumer. So whether it's coming from email, whether it's coming from social, whether it's coming from PPC, whether it's coming from organic, direct, whatever it might be, once they get to that entry point, where do they need to go next? And you can craft that journey for them, right? You can sort of manufacture that by understanding information gain. One of my favorite quotes, of course, from probably the most famous copywriter: if you're trying to persuade people to do something or buy something, it seems to me that you should use their language, the language they use every day, the language in which they think. So often, particularly in more, I don't want to say disciplined areas, but law, medical, often copywriters or content that gets created for these organizations is very highly technical, using lots of jargon. They're writing because they're thinking I'm showing my expertise, right? I'm going to show them how much I know about the law. But no, you want to write, if you're in medical, write about the symptoms, not what the procedure or what the highly technical issue is. If you're in legal, write about how they're going to look for your legal service, not maybe about the technical, it's Title II, Article 4 of the state constitution, right? Write for how people are going to look. So align language with how people are going to want to look for things. So again, this comes to the Wistia's wonderful, I have to upload as a PDF instead of a PowerPoint. So language is highly important. Language is the brand's personality. So again, when you build out that brand book, when you build out that style guide, think about what is the type of personality you want to cross to your consumer. And again, and I want to I don't want to beat up on car dealers, but oftentimes like hard to say, well, my brand is Ford or my brand is Honda. No, your brand is who you are as an individual dealership. So what personality do you want to craft in your marketplace? Language is going to be, and again, that's true for whether it's writing a script or writing social or writing a web page. Language is going to drive how people perceive the type of engagement they're going to get when they engage with your brand. Again, to piggyback off of Mr. David Ogilvy, language should focus on general use words and simple sentences. So again, don't have these complex compound sentences. Also, oftentimes I see people using passive language like the ball was kicked by the boy. Use active language in your writing. The boy kicked the ball. So have noun verb, right? So you want to make sure that the language is interesting to read and easy to read, simple to read. We talked about this earlier a little bit about focusing on benefits and not features. Language should build rapport. So again, your copy should reflect how your audience talks. And your language should be aimed towards telling a story. That's the next point. But your language should be towards, again, communicating with and not talking at your audience. And when you build rapport, again, building rapport is one of those core copywriting psychological tenets that you want to do, right? When you build rapport, you build trust with that consumer. Language should tell a story. Do some storytelling. One of the best things you can do to help tell a story on a web page is include customer testimonials. And guess what? LLMs also pull from information like testimonials on web pages. So not only are you telling a story for the consumer, you're also setting up your content to be sourced better by LLMs. But tell a story, right? Let's, again, like we said, don't focus on the algorithm. Don't focus on the AI engine. Focus on the person. But does it make sense to naturally integrate a testimonial on that particular, what is the purpose of the page? Does a testimonial fit into the story I'm trying to tell? And again, when you focus on benefits and not features, you're going to naturally tell more of a story because you're focusing on what is the benefit for the consumer. And again, that gets into, instead of 20 years of law practice, it's, hey, you're going to get the expertise you need to get that desired outcome that you want. Language should fully integrate with and be coherent among images, right? Your content, the greatest copywriter cannot write content that's going to keep, especially in this digital age, keep people engaged. You need to break things up. There should be imagery that is related to the context of the content. So language should naturally lead into, it should integrate with the image, right? Like you shouldn't have, a paragraph about the exterior of a vehicle and then you're showing the steering wheel, right? It should naturally flow, right? Everything should be cogent and coherent and make sense for the flow of the story that you're telling. So again, integrate with images. And language provides context. So again, the language is going to tell people the story, and the context will then also feed things for the training data of LLMs or for the context that the bot needs to have when it crawls the page to understand what's on that page. And we can talk about context here in a minute, beyond also just website copy, right? Context is good for email marketing as well. So here is why context is important. So context plus good structure equals clarity. That's a very simple way to approach your copywriting. So context helps your consumer make sense of the information, right? The context is going to give them the benefits and the reasoning and the unique value propositions, the unique selling propositions. They'll get that context. The structure prioritizes the most important elements of the context. So again, that goes back to product. What is the overriding single benefit? That's what you're going to prioritize. How does your service provide that solution? That, or what problem does it solve? That's what you're going to prioritize first. The delivery and quality and professionalism, trust, that's what you're going to deliver first in that B2B. So again, the structure prioritizes the most important elements of what you're going to write about. And then thoughtful context and good structure provide clarity. Clarity gives a person certainty in their journey as they navigate from initial need to purchase or appointment. And that's true even from when they're starting from an email marketing campaign or a social media marketing campaign, right? The context and language you use, the way you write out that copy. And again, you can use that checklist for social media posts from earlier. That context, that clarity from email, you give them, they understand when they click on a button in that email campaign where they're going to go. When they click on that learn more or whatever that call to action is on social media ad, they know where they're going to go. And then when they land on that page, you have the context there and you guide them, right? Be the tour guide. They get their needs satisfied, and now they know where to go next. So simple formula, but effective formula for good copywriting. So that leaves us with next steps. Start an audit of your content. Begin with your low funnel sales content and run through that checklist, that writing checklist. Start with your low funnel content, your low funnel service product pages that are going to convert people. Run through that checklist. Who is it that you're trying to speak to? What should the content accomplish? Who are we trying to reach? What benefit does the core message provide? What is the core message? Are you really hitting at what you need to on that piece of content? So begin focusing on those core tenets of copywriting and then make strategic updates. And when you do that, then start auditing the rest of your content, your mid-funnel and your informational content. And if you're not really providing unique value, cull some of what you need to get rid of because it doesn't really provide unique value to consumers. And then lastly, I thought I had uploaded the updated version of this. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Diane. I had a QR code that'd be real easy just to scan. But if you want me to lend a hand and give insights about your website content, as well as conduct our local SEO audit, simply send an email to sales@searchlabdigital.com. I am more than happy to help you with all of that. So, oh, there it is. I did put it in here. So never mind. I forgot. It's the next slide. Whoops. Thank you for joining me today. And again, you can scan that QR code if you need anything.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dane. I greatly appreciate not only the time during the webinar, but I know the time that you have spent organizing, crafting this, etc. So again, folks, if you'd like to have a conversation with Dane, feel free to scan the QR code. I'll probably give you a call. I tend to be the point of contact as Dane travels in various speaking events. And we're happy to just give you some feedback and let you kind of know where we see other opportunities. So thank you for joining us. If anyone has any questions, there is a place for the audience chat. We'll hang around here for a few minutes just to make sure there aren't any questions. But we're always happy to be a resource at SearchLab. And again, thank you, Dane. Always bringing value to the conversation. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.